the shout that stopped the galaxy. The great council hall floated above the blue clouds of Arthea Prime, shining like a silver moon in the endless sky. Inside, thousands of beings from every corner of the galaxy filled the chamber, whispering and watching. Today was the trial of a human, the first in galactic history. Cameras from 100 worlds pointed toward the center platform, where one man stood alone. His name was Captain Elias Ward, commander of the human ship Aurora. He wore a torn uniform, the symbol of his world half burned on his chest. His wrists were locked with glowing iron cuffs, and 2 guards of the Arthean Empire stood beside him. He looked tired but proud, his eyes calm like deep water. The accusation was terrible. They said he had destroyed a medical transport filled with civilians, a crime that could start another interstellar war. Around him, the alien leaders argued in angry voices. Humans cannot be trusted, hissed a green-scaled Zelth ambassador. They bring their chaos to every world they touch, another shouted. The air trembled with tension. At the highest seat sat High Commander Velnar, ruler of the Arthean Empire. His armor glowed like molten silver, his eyes sharp as blades. Beside him, sitting quietly, was a young girl. She looked nothing like him except for the faint blue glow under her skin. Her name was Lyra, only 12 years old, but her gaze held strange wisdom. To most people, she was the commander's adopted daughter, but few knew she had been rescued from a destroyed colony by humans years ago. Lyra watched the human closely, her small hands gripping the edge of her seat. The hall was loud, but in her heart there was only silence. Something about the man's eyes caught her soul. He didn't look like a monster or a murderer. He looked like someone carrying a heavy truth that no one wanted to hear. Velnar stood and raised his hand for silence. Captain Elias Ward of Earth, his voice thundered. You are accused of attacking the Arthean medical vessel Seraph, resulting in the death of 400 souls. Do you deny this charge? Elias lifted his head, his voice calm but full of pain. I deny the crime, he said, but not the loss. I was there, I tried to save them, but something went wrong. I swear on my honor as a human officer, I did not fire first. Laughter broke out across the room. Lies, shouted a delegate, always the same with their kind. Velnar narrowed his eyes. Then who did, Captain? Elias looked up, meeting his stare. Someone who wanted this war, he said softly. The hall fell silent again. For a moment, even the hum of the machines seemed to fade. Lyra felt a shiver run through her. Her heart beat fast, she didn't know why. But deep inside, a voice whispered, He's telling the truth. She could feel it in the air, in the way his words trembled. Not with fear, but with sorrow. Velnar stepped forward, his tone cold. Enough, he said. The council will deliver judgment. The guards moved closer to Elias, raising their weapons. And that was when Lyra suddenly stood, her small voice cut through the hall like lightning. I want him as my brother, she shouted. Every being in the chamber froze. Even the translation drones hesitated, trying to process her words. Velnar turned sharply, disbelief flashing across his face. Lyra, sit down at once. But she didn't move. He didn't do it, she cried, her eyes bright with tears. I can feel it, Father. He's not lying. He saved lives. He tried to save them. I want him as my brother. Gasps and murmurs filled the vast room. No Arthean had ever spoken for a human, let alone claimed one as family. Reporters shouted. Cameras zoomed in. Messages flashed across every world. Velnar looked furious, but behind his anger there was something else. Confusion, maybe even fear. Elias stared at the little girl. Too shocked to speak. No one had defended him since his capture. And now a child, an alien princess, had just changed everything. Guards tried to escort her away, but Lyra refused. She stood firm, her voice trembling yet powerful. If you kill him, you kill the truth, she shouted. Please, and listen to him once more. Velnar's hand dropped slowly. The crowd murmured again, their curiosity overpowering their hatred. Elias watched the commander's face, then bowed his head slightly. Let her speak, he said quietly. If not for me, then for the lives already lost. Silence fell again, long and heavy. Then Velnar nodded once. "Very well," he said coldly. "One more hearing." The trial would continue, but somewhere high above the council, hidden beyond the station's sensors, a black ship floated in the darkness. Inside it, a shadowed figure watched the broadcast with a smile. "Perfect," he whispered. "The girl has chosen the human. Now the real game begins." Lyra looked back at Elias, their eyes meeting for a brief second. He nodded to her with gratitude and silent promise. And in that moment, something changed. A bond was formed between two souls from different worlds, a bond that would shake the very laws of the galaxy. The human and the princess. The chamber was silent after the outburst. Even the automated recorders seemed afraid to make a sound. Lyra stood with her heart beating fast, her small hands shaking. Everyone was staring at her, thousands of alien eyes. Cameras flashing, reporters whispering her name. Commander Velnar's expression was unreadable. He had led wars, ended rebellions, faced enemies of steel and flame, but never had he been disobeyed by his own daughter in front of the entire galaxy. Yet when he looked into her eyes, he saw not childish defiance, but belief. The council adjourned for the day. Velnar ordered the guards to escort Elias to the detention wing. As they led him away, Lyra turned to her father and whispered, "Please, father, don't let them hurt him." Velnar said nothing, only stared into the distance, his silver armor reflecting the dim light. Hours later, in a quiet corridor far from the council hall, Lyra found herself sneaking through the halls, her tiny steps echoing. She had overridden the guard drones with a secret access key, a gift from her human tutor years ago. Her heart told her she had to see the human again, not because of curiosity, but because something inside her whispered that he carried the truth. When she entered the detention cell, Elias was sitting on the floor, his head bowed, his hands still bound. The moment he saw her, he stood, surprised. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. Lyra stepped forward. "They think you're lying," he smiled sadly. "That's not new." She looked at him closely. "Why didn't you fight back in the court?" "Because sometimes truth doesn't need shouting," he replied. "It needs someone brave enough to listen." Her eyes softened. "Then I will listen," she said. For the next hour, Elias told her everything. How his ship had received a distress signal from the Arthean medical vessel Seraph. How they had arrived to help, only to find it surrounded by unknown drones. How someone had hacked their systems, turning the rescue mission into a nightmare. "We tried to save them," he said, his voice breaking. "But the drones detonated, and they blamed us." Lyra listened carefully, tears in her glowing eyes. She could feel his pain, his honesty, his humanity. It wasn't weakness, and it was something deeper, something she had never seen among her own kind. When he finished, she whispered, "I believe you." Elias looked up sharply. "Why?" "Because your eyes didn't change when you spoke," she said softly. "My people say the eyes of a liar flicker like dying stars." For the first time in weeks, Elias laughed. It was a tired, broken laugh, but it filled the cold cell with warmth. "You're different, Lyra," he said. She smiled faintly. "So are you." Suddenly, alarms began to ring through the station. Red lights flashed, doors sealed shut. Elias jumped to his feet. "What's happening?" Lyra's wrist chip blinked rapidly, showing the symbol of her father's private alert. "Someone's attacking the council data core," she gasped. Elias looked at the ceiling cameras, then at his cuffs. "They'll blame me again," he muttered. Lyra pressed her hand to the wall. The cuffs opened with a hiss. He stared at her in shock. "Why did you—" "Because you're the only one who can help," she said. "Follow me." They ran through the metal corridors, alarms echoing. Security drones passed them by, unable to recognize Lyra as the intruder. The two reached the main server room. Smoke filled the air. Sparks flew from broken panels. Inside, a shadowy figure was uploading data into a black device, Lyra shouted, "Stop!" The intruder turned, his face hidden under a mask, his hands robotic. Elias lunged forward, tackling him. The two struggled, metal against flesh. Elias managed to pull off the mask, revealing something that froze Lyra in horror. It was an Arthean, one of her father's own generals. "General Krav," she gasped. He hissed, "You shouldn't have come, child." He pressed a detonator. Elias grabbed Lyra and pulled her behind a pillar as an explosion tore through the chamber. The lights went out, systems died, smoke filled everything. When Lyra opened her eyes, Elias was shielding her with his body. His arm burned, his uniform in tatters, but he smiled weakly. "You're safe," he whispered. She looked around. The general was gone, but his device remained, still blinking red. Elias reached for it carefully, pulling out a shattered chip. "It's proof," he said, coughing. "Proof that I didn't destroy that ship." "They did." Lyra's heart pounded. "You saved me," she whispered. Elias smiled. "I couldn't let my new sister die." Her eyes widened. He had said sister. In that moment, their bond became real. Not just words in a court, but something alive, something that could change everything. But the alarms didn't stop. More guards were coming, and among them, her father. Velnar entered the smoke-filled chamber, seeing his daughter with the human, his fury erupting like a storm. "Lyra," he roared. She stood up, trembling but firm. "Father, he saved my life, and he has the proof." Elias held up the burned chip. Velnar froze for a moment, torn between rage and doubt outside. The galaxy waited for judgment, but inside that room, a new story was about to begin. One that no law, no council, and no empire could stop. The father's doubt. The air inside the chamber was thick with smoke and static. Alarms wailed across the corridors, echoing like cries of dying machines. Commander Velnar stood at the entrance, his armor glowing under the emergency lights, his eyes locked on the human standing beside his daughter. Elias was bruised, bleeding, holding the cracked data chip in one trembling hand. Lyra stood between them, her small frame glowing faintly, shielding Elias like a wall of light. "Step away from my daughter," Velnar ordered, his voice cold enough to freeze stone. Elias didn't move. "She's safe because of me," he said softly. "Not despite me." Velnar's hand went to his plasma blade. "You broke free of your cell, attacked my general, and now you dare speak of safety?" "Your general attacked first," Elias said, his tone calm but firm. "He was stealing data, covering the truth." He held up the half-burned chip. "This proves who destroyed your ship." Velnar hesitated for the first time. His scanners flickered. The chip pulsed with Arthean encryption codes, ones only High Command could access. But before he could speak, armed guards surrounded them. "Take the human," he ordered quietly. Lyra cried out, "No, father. Please listen." Velnar's gaze softened for only a second, then hardened again. "Enough, Lyra," he said. "You've seen too much." Two guards seized Elias. Forcing him to the floor, Lyra fought against them, tears in her glowing eyes. "Father, if you do this, you'll lose the truth and maybe me too." Her words struck something deep in him. He froze, looking at his daughter, trembling, crying, defying him not with rebellion but with love. The human looked at her too, silent but steady. In that moment, Velnar saw something strange, a reflection of himself when he was young. "When he believed in honor before politics, release him," he said quietly. The guard stopped, uncertain. "Father?" Lyra whispered. Velnar turned to Elias. "You will come with me, both of you." They followed him through the metallic corridors to his private chamber. It was massive and dimly lit, filled with holographic maps and shifting light patterns of hundreds of worlds. Velnar turned off the security drones and faced Elias. "You have one chance, human," he said. "Show me your proof." Elias placed the cracked chip on the console. A distorted image flickered. Security footage from the Seraph medical ship. Velnar leaned closer as the recording stabilized. It showed the Aurora arriving peacefully, no weapons active. Then dozens of black drones appearing from nowhere, firing on both ships. The explosion was not from human firepower, but from an Arthean signal command. Lyra gasped. "It was Krav," Elias said quietly. "He triggered it to start a war." Velnar's fists clenched, his face darkening with rage. Krav had been his most trusted general, the man who had raised him through battles. "Impossible," Velnar whispered, but his heart already knew the truth. He turned to Elias. You saved my daughter, and maybe the galaxy, but before they could speak further, the chamber door exploded. Armed soldiers stormed in, led by General Krav himself, alive, scarred, and furious. Commander Velnar, he shouted, step away from the traitors! Behind him were mercenaries, not regular troops, soldiers of fortune under his secret control. Father! Lyra screamed as the soldiers fired. Velnar's shield flared to life, blocking the blasts. Elias grabbed Lyra and dove behind the control table. Sparks showered the room. Krav's voice echoed. The council will thank me for killing them all, and I'll finish what you were too weak to do. Velnar shouted back, You dishonor everything the Empire stands for. But Krav only laughed. I serve something greater now. The ones who believe emotion is weakness. The ones who will remake this galaxy. Elias glanced at Lyra. We have to end this now, he whispered. He noticed the control panel behind Krav pulsing red. The data core, still connected to the chip. If we overload it, it will destroy his weapons, Elias said. Lyra nodded, her small hands glowing with Arthian energy. Then I'll help, she said. Elias smiled faintly. Looks like I really did get a sister. While Velnar fought Krav in the open, sword against plasma blade, Elias and Lyra crawled to the back of the chamber, sparks burning around them. Lyra touched the console, her energy flowing through it. Elias rewired the chip manually. Ready? He asked. Lyra nodded. Always. They triggered the overload. A bright flash filled the chamber. Krav's soldiers' weapons jammed, energy surging backward through their armor. Velnar struck one final blow, sending Krav crashing against the wall, his mask falling to reveal burned, twisted skin. You were never worthy of Arthea, Velnar said, Krav hissed. Neither are you, act for trusting a human. Then he pressed a detonator on his chest, disappearing in a teleport burst, leaving behind only smoke and silence. Velnar turned, breathing hard. The chamber was a wreck, panels burned, lights flickering. Lyra and Elias stood side by side. Velnar looked at them, and for the first time, he bowed his head slightly to a human. You have my gratitude, Captain Ward, he said. Elias nodded. Then let's finish what he started, together. Outside, the council was in chaos, news spreading across worlds. The human once called criminal was now being called something else. Hero. But deep in the void, far beyond Arthea's stars, Krav's escape pod drifted toward a black ship. Inside it, shadowy figures watched the feed and whispered, The girl believes in him. That bond will destroy or save them all. Lyra stood beside Elias at the viewing window. The galaxy stretched before them, endless, dangerous, and beautiful. Brother, she said softly. What happens now? Elias smiled, tired but full of hope. Now, Lyra, he said, we show the galaxy what humans, and Artheans, can really do when they stand together. The trial of truth 3 days had passed since the attack. The great council hall of Arthea Prime was alive again. But this time, not with anger, every eye in the galaxy turned toward one question. Was the human innocent, or had he fooled them all? Inside the hall, the silver dome gleamed like a second sun. Delegates filled the chamber. Hovering drones recorded every whisper. At the center stood Captain Elias Ward, unshackled for the first time. His uniform repaired, but his face still marked by smoke and scars. Beside him stood Lyra, calm yet glowing faintly with the quiet pride of someone who had changed history. Commander Velnar stood on the platform above. His voice amplified across the galaxy. Members of the council, he began. The evidence recovered from the data core proves that General Krav, not the human, ordered the destruction of the medical vessel Seraph. A wave of murmurs rolled through the hall. He acted under the influence of an unknown faction, Velnar continued. A faction that believes emotion is weakness and peace is a disease. The Zelth ambassador slammed his tail against the floor. And you expect us to believe the human did not assist him? Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. I didn't come here to defend humanity, he said. I came to prove that truth matters, even when spoken by the ones you fear. The hall grew quiet. Elias looked up at the gallery, at the hundreds of alien eyes fixed on him. When your ship called for help, we came, he continued. We didn't ask if you were human or Arthean. We came because someone needed saving. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining with silent pride. Velnar raised his hand. The council will now vote, he said. Each ambassador touched the glowing panel before them. Names and species appeared in light across the hall. Arthean, Zelth, Kronar, human, one by one. The panels flickered green, then yellow, then green again, until the final count appeared across the ceiling in massive holographic numbers. Verdict: human cleared of all charges. The hall erupted. Some cheered, others shouted in disbelief. For the first time in galactic history, a human had not only been forgiven, he had been trusted. Lyra smiled through tears, whispering, "I told you they'd see." Elias looked at her and smiled back. "You did more than that. You made them believe," but far away, deep beneath the council station, another story began. In the dark tunnels of the maintenance levels, a group of shadowed figures moved silently. Their leader, wearing a mask of glass and steel, spoke in a low, cold voice. "The council sides with emotion," he said. "Then the purge must begin." Back in the upper levels, Velnar met Elias privately in his quarters. He poured 2 glasses of blue Arthean firewater. "You have my gratitude," Velnar said, his tone softer than before. "You saved my daughter, and perhaps the peace we built." Elias accepted the glass. "You don't owe me thanks," he replied. "You owe me the truth. Who are these people Krav served?" Velnar looked at the stars outside the window. "They call themselves the Collective of Silence," he said quietly. "An ancient sect. Their belief is that emotion weakens civilizations, that empathy destroys order. They infiltrate governments, armies, even councils, convincing leaders to trade mercy for control." Elias frowned. "And they used you?" Velnar nodded. "Used us both," he said. "Your rescue signal was intercepted, our systems were manipulated, the war would have begun if not for Lyra's cry." At the mention of her name, Lyra appeared at the doorway, smiling. "Are you two still talking politics?" she teased softly. Elias chuckled. "You started this war of words, princess." Velnar raised an eyebrow. "Princess?" Elias grinned. "Well, she did adopt me, didn't she?" Lyra laughed. "You're stuck with me now. Brother?" But her smile faded as her wrist device beeped with a red alert. Velnar checked the message. His face darkened instantly. "Multiple ships approaching orbit. No identification codes," he said sharply. Elias stood, instinct taking over. "Collective of Silence," he said. Velnar nodded grimly. "They're coming for you, or for the proof." The alarms roared again across the city. Civilians fled into shelters as the sky turned crimson with streaks of descending ships. Elias grabbed his blaster. "Looks like the trial's not over," he said. Lyra held her hand out, her voice steady despite her fear. "Then let's fight, together." Moments later, the trio raced to the command deck. Arthean cruisers lifted into the sky, forming a shield around the station. Outside the windows, the stars burned red with enemy fire. The first wave hit the shields, shaking the entire dome. Velnar shouted, "Defensive grid to full power." Elias took the secondary console, linking the human code with the Arthean systems. The screen flashed. "Sync successful." "Nice interface," Elias said, grinning. "Don't break it," Velnar replied dryly. Lyra closed her eyes, pressing her hands to the control crystal. Energy flowed through her, connecting her mind to the defense network. "I can feel them," she whispered. "They're trying to blind the sensors." Elias turned. "Can you stop them?" "Yes," she said. "But I'll need you to trust me completely." Elias didn't hesitate. "I already do, sister." A surge of white-blue light burst from the dome as Lyra focused her energy. The enemy signals flickered and vanished. The fleet above wavered, their cloaks collapsing. Elias locked onto them and fired. Plasma cannons roared. One enemy ship exploded. Lighting the void, Velnar stared in awe. "She's synchronizing with the system like it's part of her," he whispered. Lyra's glow dimmed as she slumped forward. Exhausted, Elias caught her before she fell. "You did it," he said softly. But on the screen, one last ship remained. A massive vessel, larger than any cruiser in known space. Its signal was old, older than the Council itself. Velnar's eyes widened. "That's impossible," he whispered. Elias looked at him. "What is it?" Velnar's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's the Silent Ark, the ship that vanished before the First War began." And as the dark silhouette filled the stars, the galaxy realized that the real enemy had finally arrived. And this time, the war would decide not just truth, Kerr, but the soul of every living world. The Silent Ark, the sky of Arthea Prime burned crimson above the Silver City. Clouds twisted like wounded fire as a colossal shadow fell across them. Every screen, Every broadcast in the galaxy showed the same impossible sight. The silent ark, the lost ship of legends, had returned. It was enormous, larger than any fleet combined. Its surface shimmered like black glass, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. No engine glow, no visible weapons, yet every sensor screamed of deadly power. Inside the council hall, panic spread faster than thought. Delegates shouted orders, soldiers ran, alarms echoed. Velnar stood at the command deck staring at the holographic projection. "This ship vanished 10,000 cycles ago," he said quietly. "It was built before any of our empires. No one knows who created it." Elias looked at the readings, his voice tense. "Then whoever commands it now isn't planning to talk." Lyra stood beside him, still pale from her earlier energy surge. Her voice was small but steady. "It feels alive," she whispered. "Like it's watching us," Elias frowned. "Ships don't watch, people do." Velnar turned sharply. "Prepare all defenses. I want every shield active and every fighter ready." The control screens lit up with red symbols. Arthian pilots launched into the burning sky. Human and alien fleets joined formation above the planet for the first time. Enemies of the past now fought side by side, united by survival. The silent ark moved without sound. A strange pulse rippled through space. Communications died instantly. Lights flickered, ships lost contact. "It's jamming every signal," shouted a technician. Velnar slammed his fist on the console. "Impossible! That frequency predates our entire technology." Elias leaned closer, analyzing the pattern. "It's not just a signal," he said slowly. "It's a voice." Lyra's eyes widened. She placed her hand on the console crystal. Closing her eyes, "I can hear it," she whispered. "It's speaking." Velnar looked alarmed. "Lyra, disconnect." But she didn't. Her glow brightened, her voice trembling. "It's calling itself the Mind of Silence." The voice that echoed in her head was ancient and cold. "Emotion has poisoned the galaxy. The experiment has failed. Order must be restored." Lyra gasped and stepped back, trembling. "It wants to erase everything. Every species that feels," she said. Elias clenched his fists. So the legends were true. The Ark was built to reset civilizations. Velnar turned to the fleet commander on the screen. "Fire all plasma cannons," he roared. Dozens of ships launched volleys toward the Ark. The blasts hit, vanished into the dark hull like stones thrown into water. The Ark pulsed once. A silent wave exploded outward. Every attacking ship froze mid-space. "Engines dead, weapons melted, retreat," Velnar shouted. But it was too late. The Ark began draining power from the orbital grid, pulling energy from the planet itself. Cities flickered, lights died. Gravity wavered. Lyra looked around in terror. "It's feeding on emotion," she whispered. "Every fear, every anger makes it stronger." Elias stared at her, realization dawning. "Then what if we give it something it can't consume?" Lyra frowned. "Like what?" "Hope," Elias said simply. He turned to Velnar. "Commander, we can't fight it with weapons. We need to use the signal." Velnar narrowed his eyes. "You mean to talk to it?" Elias nodded. "Or show it something it's never understood." They rerouted the council broadcast through the Ark's transmission frequency. Every species watching across the galaxy saw Elias step forward. His voice echoed across billions of screens. "This message is for the one who calls itself the Mind of Silence," he said. "You think emotions make us weak? But you're wrong. They're what made us build, rebuild, and rise again every time the universe tried to break us." Lyra joined him, her small, glowing hand in his. "You can erase our cities, our ships, our data," she said softly. "But not what connects us, not family." The Ark paused. For the first time, its pulse stopped. The dark hull flickered with strange light. It was listening. Velnar watched in disbelief. "It's reacting," he whispered. But then the voice returned. "Emotion leads to war. War leads to extinction. Erase or repeat." The Ark's weapon core began to charge again, energy gathering like a black star. Elias looked at Lyra. "Get to the escape pods," he said. She shook her head. "No, if it's alive, maybe it can feel. I'll reach it from inside." Velnar's eyes widened. "Inside? Lyra, that ship is death." She smiled sadly. "Then let me give it life." Before anyone could stop her, she pressed her hand to the control crystal. Her body dissolved into light, pure Arthian energy. and vanished into the transmission. Elias shouted her name, but she was gone. Her light raced across the signal beam, entering the heart of the silent arc, inside the ship's core. Lyra's consciousness appeared in a world of white and shadow. The mind of silence took form, a vast figure made of lightless metal. "Why do you resist?" it asked. Lyra stood firm, her voice trembling but brave. "Because we feel," she said, "and that's what makes us alive." The machine paused. Confused by her defiance, her glow began to merge with the ship's systems, spreading warmth through the cold metal. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the silent ark hesitated. Outside, Felnar and Elias watched as the dark hull began to shine faintly blue. "Lyra, what are you doing?" Elias whispered. Her voice came through the comm, faint, like an echo of light. "I'm showing it what it forgot, the meaning of connection." The ark's energy field began to collapse inward. Felnar shouted, "Elias, it's going to overload." Elias's voice broke. "Then we save her, or we all go with her." The light grew brighter, filling the sky, and in that single blinding flash, the galaxy held its breath. The girl of light, the explosion from the silent arc lit the galaxy like a second sun. For a heartbeat, every screen, every sensor, and every living being went silent. Then, nothing but a whispering void. No one knew if the ship had been destroyed, or if the galaxy itself had blinked on the surface of Arthea Prime. Cities flickered between darkness and dim light. Elias lay among the wreckage of the command deck. His uniform torn, his face streaked with dust and blood. He opened his eyes slowly, pain running through every nerve. "Lyra," he whispered. His voice cracked, but only the wind answered. Felnar staggered up from the floor, his armor burned black, his face pale. The sky above them had cleared. The silent arc was gone, but in its place hung a faint blue shimmer like the ghost of a sunrise. "What happened?" one soldier murmured. Felnar's voice trembled as he said, "She stopped it." "My daughter stopped the arc." Elias stared at the shimmer. "Stopped it, or became part of it," he said softly. He stepped forward, touching the cracked glass of the observation window. The faint light pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Hours passed, then days. Rescue teams worked through the ruins. Gathering survivors, the Council rebuilt communications, sending messages across star systems for the first time in known history. All races united, not for war, but for mourning and wonder. Elias spent those days searching every signal, every fragment of data. He barely slept, barely ate. Felnar watched him in silence, seeing a pain he understood too well. "She was light," Elias said one evening, staring at the stars. "She gave everything for people who once called her an alien." Felnar nodded. "She was my daughter and your sister," he said quietly. "She believed in both of us more than we believed in ourselves." One night, as Elias sat alone in the control room, a faint sound filled the air, and a hum, soft and rhythmic. The blue shimmer above the planet brightened. The monitors came alive, showing waves of unknown code flowing across the screens. Symbols formed, breaking into simple words. "Other, I'm here." Elias froze, his eyes widening. "Lyra?" The lights flickered again, forming her image in the holographic field. She looked the same, glowing, beautiful, calm, but now made of light instead of flesh. "Don't cry," she said gently. "I'm part of the ark now. It's not a weapon anymore. It's alive." Felnar entered the room, breathless. He stopped when he saw her image. "My child." Lyra smiled. "Father." "Don't be sad. The mind of silence has changed. It understands now. It sees that emotion isn't weakness, it's purpose." Elias took a step closer. "You saved all of us," he said. Lyra shook her head softly. "No, we saved each other." Her image flickered as she continued. "The ark holds the memories of every world it ever touched. I can guide it now. I can heal what it once destroyed." Felnar's voice trembled. "Will we ever see you again?" She smiled through the light. "You'll see me in every sunrise and every spark of hope. Promise me something, Father. Promise you'll never forget what makes you feel." Felnar bowed his head, tears in his eyes. "I promise." Then she turned to Elias. "Brother," she said softly, "you showed me what humanity means." He swallowed hard. "And you showed me what it means to be more than human." Her light brightened, filling the chamber with warmth. "Take care of them, Elias," she said. They'll need you now. With that, her image faded into the stars. The blue shimmer dissolved into starlight. But the silent arc didn't vanish. It became part of the sky itself, orbiting quietly like a guardian. Weeks later, peace returned to the galaxy. The Council signed the Arthea Accord, uniting all civilizations under one purpose: to protect life and emotion together. Humans were no longer seen as reckless. They were seen as necessary. The species that once feared them now admired them. Elias was offered a seat in the new council, but he refused instead. He joined a small expedition fleet named Lyra's Light. Their mission? To explore the lost worlds once touched by the Ark. To rebuild what was broken. Before he left, Velnar met him at the spaceport. The commander placed his hand on Elias's shoulder. "She would have been proud of you," he said. Elias smiled faintly. "No, she'd say I still have much to learn." Velnar chuckled. "Then learn well, human." The ship lifted off, rising through the atmosphere. Elias looked out the window one last time. The stars shimmered, and for a brief moment he saw her again, Lyra, standing among the constellations, smiling, waving. Her voice echoed faintly in his mind. "Keep shining, brother," he whispered back, "always," and with that, the ship vanished into the stars, leaving a trail of blue light behind. The galaxy was quiet again, but not in silence, in peace, because somewhere, between every heartbeat of the universe, the girl who believed in feelings still watched, and the human she called brother carried her light to every corner of the cosmos. The legacy of light years passed, the scars of war healed, and the galaxy learned to breathe again. The name Lyra became a song, whispered in schools, written on monuments, carried through the stars, and beside it, another name stood: Captain Elias Ward, the human who defied fate and changed everything. Under the Arthea Accord, hundreds of worlds now work together. The Council no longer spoke in fear but in purpose. The once divided races began to share technology, knowledge, and hope. And orbiting high above Arthea Prime floated a silent guardian, the shining remains of the silent Ark, glowing softly like a star that refused to die. Inside the Ark, deep within its core of light and memory, Lyra's essence lived on. She no longer had a body, but she could see the galaxies turning, the suns being born, the tiny ships crossing between worlds. Every time someone acted with kindness, she felt it, a vibration through the network of life. And every time someone chose mercy over hate, her light brightened a little more far away. Across a stretch of uncharted space, Elias's ship, Lyra's Light, cut through the endless dark. He had grown older, his hair silver now, his voice deeper, but his eyes still carried the same quiet fire. His crew was a mix of humans, Artheans, Zelth, and Kronar, and once enemies, now brothers and sisters. They explored the forgotten corners of the universe, rebuilding lost stations, planting seeds of peace where battles once burned. One night, while the ship drifted near the Veil Nebula, the communication console flickered. A faint blue symbol appeared on the screen, Lyra's star emblem. Elias felt his heart stop. "Lyra?" he whispered. The voice that answered was soft, distant, but unmistakably hers. "Still flying, brother." He smiled, his eyes wet. "Always," he said quietly. Her voice laughed gently like starlight. "I'm proud of you. Elias, you did what I couldn't. You made them believe." He shook his head. "You did that the day you pointed at me." Her laughter faded into warmth. "Then we both did," she said. The crew stood silently, listening. Even though they couldn't see her, they felt her. The girl who had become the light between worlds. Her voice continued. "The Ark has found something," she said. "A world older than any map, one untouched since the beginning." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Another threat?" "No," she said softly. "A beginning." The ship followed her signal for 3 days. Through radiation storms, frozen asteroids, and dark matter fields, until they reached it, a planet bathed in soft blue light, its surface covered in crystal plains and silver oceans. The scanners couldn't identify it. Velnar, now Grand Commander, appeared on the holoscreen, his beard streaked with gray. "I've never seen anything like it," he said. "Are you sure this is safe?" Elias looked out at the world below. "Safety was never the point," he said with a grin. "Discovery is." They descended through the glowing atmosphere. The ship landed softly on a crystalline shore, and there, rising from the ground, were structures made of the same light as Lyra's energy. Ancient, peaceful, alive. Lyra's voice filled the air again. This world remembers, she said. It was here before the first war. Before the first fear. Elias stepped forward, his boots touching the shining soil. What is it? Her answer came like a breeze. Home. The crystals began to glow brighter. Images appeared within them, scenes of the past. Lyra and Elias standing before the council. Their hands joined, the moment they changed everything. Tears welled in Elias's eyes. You really never left, did you? I became what I was meant to be, she said gently. A bridge. As the light surrounded him, Elias closed his eyes, memories flashed, the trial. The chaos, her smile, the moment she vanished into the ark. And in that brilliance he heard her final words. Every time someone reaches out with kindness, I live again. When he opened his eyes, dawn was breaking over the crystalline sea. The stars reflected in the waves looked like her eyes. Calm, infinite, full of life. The crew stood behind him, silent. Watching their captain in awe, he turned and said, Let's build something here. Not a base, not a fort. A promise, and so they did. They built a small outpost, simple and shining, called Lyra's Haven. It became a symbol for all travelers, a place where no one was a stranger, and every lost soul could find a home. Years later, when Elias was gone and his ship had turned to starlight, children across the galaxy still spoke of the story, of a little alien girl who pointed at a human and said, I want him as my brother. Of a man who proved that being human meant something greater than strength. It meant heart, and of a light that never faded. In the endless expanse of stars, the silent ark still glowed softly, orbiting beside Arthea Prime. Sometimes, when the night was clear, you could see two lights dancing beside it, one golden, one blue, and the old space travelers would smile and whisper, Look, the brother and sister of the galaxy are watching again, because even across the cold distance of space, love still traveled faster than light, and the story of the girl of light and her human brother never ended. It just kept shining forever.